Gayle King was so wonderful, by the way. She came in with hundreds of notes and she watched my special and she read my book and she couldn't have been nicer. I have a whole bit about her in Oprah in Rome, and she
Right.
remembered me, and she was wonderful and warm and sweet and interested. And she really loved the line where I was talking about where I say, what in the faggotry are you talking about? Well, I guess she never heard that term before. And she was really interested in it. And so but she asked it on air. So she said, "What in the faggotry are you talking about?"
On
And
morning TV.
on morning TV, CBS, and I just laughed hysterically because I thought, first of all, if anyone can say the word faggot, it's Gayle. Let's be honest here. There are certain women in this world that can say faggot. Like Jennifer Coolidge can say faggot. Gayle can say faggot. I mean, there's certain women, it's a feeling. So I thought it was hysterical. And then page six and Access House, they're all like, I love the articles, openly gay comic, as if any article is going to say closeted gay comic Matteo Lane.
Yeah.
Like, just
We can
say
we can
it's
drop the
almost,
openly.
yeah, it's almost like saying faggot comic gets called faggot on TV. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
there's just people struggling to get any kind of
Yeah.
story
Maybe
out of
they're
something.
trying to make it clear that I don't, yeah, I'm not sure what they're trying to do, but um
Yeah, it was
yeah,
funny.
I just thought it was interesting that you seemed so much less offended by it than I'm not sure who
Then
was
white
offended
women.
by it. Yeah, it's like who was offended by it, I guess is the question, because it
Look,
seemed like that people were trying to make it into a thing that it not that it wasn't necessarily that what yeah.
there were plenty of people who were offended by it, and that's that's the thing. It's not a monolith. Being gay doesn't mean that how I feel is how everybody else feels. There's plenty of people who have a different relationship with that word. They came up at a different time. They came up and grew up in different environments, countries, parents. But so I can't expect that everyone is going to laugh at it the way that I have. I just happen to look at life and laugh at it. I think
Yeah.
that's hysterical that Gayle King on CBS this morning decided of all the things she could talk to me about while I'm trying to sell a pasta book is the word faggotry. I find that funny, but I also understand that not everybody else finds that funny, and that's completely valid and acceptable. But personally speaking, I wanted more.
You wanted more what?
She could spit in my eye and call me a cum guzzling faggot, and I would say, Gail, thank you for the next 1,000 books I just sold.
Yeah, it was a good it got you some attention for sure. I
Sure.
mean I think it does come down like you're saying she could get away with it because of who she is, because she's Gail King. At the same time, I'm sure that's a word that has been used against you as a kid by hecklers, and it's very people weren't maybe making
Yeah.
that distinction between who's using it and the intention.
But yeah, of course, Gayle King wasn't sitting there to be like this
Yeah.
dumb faggot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was trying to express to me that she watched something that I made and she really enjoyed it. And she was very curious about what that meant and how I used that. I mean, she
Yeah.
had all these notes with her. Um, it didn't bother me.
Yeah, it's an example of maybe we should be paying more attention to someone's sentiment and not just the words that are coming out of their mouth.
Well, I think subtlety is out the window. I don't think redemption and subtlety are certainly not a part of the conversation these days. It's pitchforks, attack everyone, and block later.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what Grinder was like years ago when I was on it.
Did you have any conversations with her either right after or after the sort of backlash to it?
No, no, they rocketed her off the planet. CBS is like,
Oh
we got to
yeah,
get her
well,
out of here. And then she and Katy Perry just went straight. Her
yeah.
controversy went from calling me a faggot, joking, obviously, and to being in space with the world's most insufferable human being, Katy Perry.
Yeah, who also comes up in your special.
I did. It's true. I have the video that proves what I said. Everything I say on stage, by the way, is true. I don't make anything up. So I have videos and pictures of me meeting Katy Perry. At one point, she was petting my arm. I was like, "Oh God, get a grip."
Yeah, yeah, your connections to the space flight are deep.
Deep, very deep. Yeah, and it looked like a penis. So there.
So you mentioned Joan Rivers earlier, and someone you've always talked about as one of your, biggest influences and the person who maybe even made you want to do comedy. You got to perform at this tribute event for Joan Rivers several months ago, but just came out recently on Peacock. Um, can you talk about what that was like to do that for that special?
Yeah, it was a full circle. I mean, that was one of the very few times I got emotional. Because I watched that special before Melissa pulls the plug 1,000 times. I know it by heart. I know everything about that special, and I got to meet Melissa. I got very emotional when I met her. And right before I went on stage, they played a clip from that special, and I walked on stage to sing a song my friend Henry Kapersky wrote, who was the pianist that night and musical director. Him and I are great friends, and Henry wrote a song for me about my love of Joan. And Henry and I used to sing at the duplex till 4 o'clock in the morning in 2014. So everything about it was like full circle. I was sitting on a couch with Nikki Glazer and Michelle Buteau, and we're all dialed up for this big NBC event. And we're kind of laughing, like, remember we were at shitty open mics? Remember because we all us three came up together. We were at the shitty shows, the shitty clubs, the shitty mics, the shitty there we all dialed up with our hair and makeup done, ready to go perform. It was all of it was pretty fun.
So what I want to do now is our segment called The First Laugh. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, starting with the first piece of comedy that you remember making you laugh really hard as a kid growing up.
Uh, probably something, probably Mel Brooks. I don't know why my parents let us watch Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, but I remember imitating Madeline Kahn doing tired, sick, and tired of love. I mean, it was a hooker in the 1800s singing about how she's tired of fucking. And I didn't have any idea what that meant. I just loved Madeline Kahn and would
Yeah.
recreate that over and over. So that's probably my earliest memory of me imitating something for the family.
What about the first time that you knew that you were funny, that you could make other people laugh?
That stuff like
Yeah.
that. I could
Imitating what you saw.
easily,
Yeah.
yeah, easily do impressions. Mad TV, Simpsons, prank phone calls, my
Yeah.
family. But I come from a really funny family. So I grew up in the same block as, my 20 cousins and my aunts and uncles. And certainly wasn't the funniest. My funniest cousin is Brian, or my cousin Megan, or my Aunt Cindy is the funniest person I know, my Aunt Lisa. So I wasn't the star by any means, but I could always do impressions. And my Uncle Mike would always say to me, you're going to be the next Jim Carrey, and I'm going to be your manager. So there was always kind of something in the air that I would perform in some aspect, but we were too busy eating pasta.
Did you have a first great impression that you were really proud of that you could do?
When I was in preschool, all the kids got to do like an impression of a farm animal, and I did a rooster. So that would probably be my earliest memory. Singing, I was always a good singer. So singing like Disney music or something, again, not much has changed. I really, the base change pas. I really am sort of the same person from when I was 4 to now.
What do you remember about that very first time you decided to get up on stage and perform stand up? Where were you? How did it go? What do you remember about it?
The first show I did was at Old Town Pub in Old Town in Chicago, across the street from Zany's. And my friend Anais was dating Marty DeRosa, who was a very good comic in Chicago, and he ran that show. And I said I wanted to do stand up, having no idea what that was. So he said you could do 3 minutes at my show. So I showed up with 30 members of my family and my boyfriend at the time. And I did 3 minutes of stand up, basically doing the best impression of Kathy Griffin I could do. And I was terrified. And yeah, that was it. Lisa Traeger was also on that show, furiously writing in her notebook before she went on stage. Nothing's changed. Um, yeah, that was my first show. 2009. I was 23. I'm going to be 39 in 3 weeks.
Do you have a first joke or bit that you wrote that you felt really good about and sort of worked every time you did it and you
Yes,
liked?
I was at Lottie's open mic in Chicago. This would have been a Tuesday, I think, was when Lottie's was. And I wrote a joke about how, and I've heard other versions of this joke, but it really was an experience. I think that's paralleled with a lot of, I had never done this on stage before, but um, a lot of gay men have this experience where we're men in the middle of the night getting off a train following a woman, and she starts to walk faster, and you realize that she thinks because I'm a man, I'm dangerous. So every time she turns around, I would sashay.
That's
Stupid,
good.
but it got a laugh. I mean, it was
Yeah.
stupid, and it got a laugh. That was the first joke I ever made that really connected. There was a setup, there was a punchline, there was a bait and switch,
Hmm.
like base. It's like learning how to dribble.
Yeah. I believe you made your late night stand-up debut on Seth Meyers in 2016. Does that sound right?
Yes.
What do you remember about that experience and sort of getting to do a late night set for the first time?
Well, I had done late night on another show,
Okay.
another late night show. But they filmed beforehand and they decided that they thought it was too gay. The host said to the producers that I was doing too many gay jokes and they'd like me to come back and redo it and make it less gay.
What show
And
was that?
so I don't know. How interesting. I won't
Is
share.
it a show that's not on anymore?
I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay.
Let's just say I said no. And then, which was kind of a good thing in a weird way. Like it really put a lot into perspective of the world I was actually living in. And I did this shitty tour with Lisa Traeger, the worst nightclubs and comedy clubs in America, but really honed my voice and really learned how to be a comic. And this is 2015,
Hmm.
16, 15. So it ended up really helping me learn a lot about what I want out of stand-up, which is care about your jokes, care about your friends. That's something Lisa Traeger always said. And then a year later, Seth Meyers asked if I wanted to do the show, and they were wonderful. They had no restrictions whatsoever about anything that I wanted to do.
Mm.
And it was a really nice full circle, and I had a wonderful time.
With those late night sets, you have to tell them basically your whole set that you're going to do before you do it, right? Is that still how
Yeah,
it works?
everyone does it differently. So,
Yeah.
for Fallon, it's very clean. I think that changed a bit now. I think it's less clean than it had been.
Hmm.
But TV standards, and then usually the booker works with you. We don't like this joke, or move that joke here, move that joke here. Because since I've done Stephen Colbert, I've done a bunch, but Seth Meyers was really a wonderful experience. They didn't have any, they were just like, yeah, go do whatever you want, which is what you should do with comics. I don't
Yeah.
understand this idea of this booker coming in saying, move this here, move that there. Um, they're not on stage every night. It'd be like telling a painter, we love your portraits and we want them. Don't use these colors
Hmm.
after they've already painted it. It's an unnecessary person involved.
Yeah.
Say
And
you
to
want them to do 5 minutes and don't swear, and let the comic do what the comic does.
Yeah, and to book you and not trust, like if they're booking you, they should trust you enough that you're funny and you can do it, and that should be the hurdle.
Or don't have stand up. If you think that the
Yeah.
stand up comic can't do the job that's fit for TV, then don't have stand up. But there's so many times people say they want comedy and then they get a comic and they're like, we didn't know it was going to be like this. It's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, comedy's not for the faint of heart. Like,
Yeah.
we're performing at 2 a.m. for drunks. How do you think we're developing our material? Like,
Do you have a story or memory about the first time you met one of your really big comedy heroes, someone who you looked up to in the comedy world, and what it was like to meet them for the first time?
I remember meeting Tig Notaro really early, and she was wonderful and sweet. I remember meeting. I'm trying to think of like the people that I really upset. Well, like Margaret Cho. I have been in the same room and on podcasts with Margaret Cho so many times, and have been too afraid to talk to her.
Really? To this day?
Yeah, to this day. I just did like some show at Joe's Pub that was honoring her, and she was in the room, and I couldn't even look in her direction. I just love her so much. And I know she's friends with Joel and all my friends, and we've literally been on a Zoom podcast together, but sharing stories separately. Um, but I've just been too afraid to say. I'm always thinking I'm bothering somebody, like I'm a burden. And
Yeah.
Margaret's like, I've met everybody, I don't care. She obviously she's not like that, but in my mind, I'm like, she doesn't need some other fag coming up to her being like, I love
Yeah.
you. Like she's heard it before.
Well, she was very sweet. I feel like she would be nice to you.
She would. I live in fear.
Um, our last question on the show, is there a story or memory from your career that makes you laugh now, but really was not funny when it happened?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, I went to go see the opening of Colin Quinn's show at the Matteo Lane Theater. This would have been like 2017, and they put me in the fourth row all the way at the edge. So the only way for me to get out was to move through everybody and down the aisle. When I tell you I had to pee so bad, I couldn't hold it. Jerry Seinfeld is there, like all these like big, what to do that. And I thought I'm either gonna go into kidney failure or I'm I'm gonna piss my pants. So I had to make everyone, including like Jerry Seinfeld, get up and move so I could, in the middle of his show, go pee. And then I went and sat in the back in shame. And then everybody made fun of me for it. And then when I was on stage, Colin Quinn came up and interrupted my show at the Cellar.
Uh,
And it was
he noticed.
hysterical.
He knew the story.
Oh my God, are you kidding? Everybody was making fun of me for weeks. I was so embarrassed at the time, but now it's so funny because like me and Colin are such good friends.
Yeah.
It's like it was, but I'm like, I wouldn't have changed anything. Or maybe I wouldn't have drank water that day, but I had to pee. So now everyone makes fun of me that I have to go pee, to the point where I was even in Rome about to do a show. And my friend Liz, who's the manager of the Comedy Cellar, her friends from Rome were there. And this woman walked up to me and she goes, Liz texted me and said, go pee now.
It's
So
followed you around. This is what you're known for now.
literally, yes, I always have to pee.
Well, Matteo, thank you so much for doing this. I hope we balance the trauma and the comedy well in this conversation. And
No, you were amazing. I hope that I didn't come off like it's enough. You know what I mean? But like, I hope I was a pleasant interviewer.
yes, yes. I
I don't know.
appreciate it. And congrats on the special. It's really great.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much.